So remember that everything is based from the lessons. It's based from the garden all the way to Revelations, right? So you're always going to see me repeating stuff that happened in the garden as we keep going through all the different books. Okay, so we're going to see that this pattern keeps continuing over and over and over again, and you'll see each person is going through this storm, be it Israel, the kings, ourselves. There's always a cycle that keeps happening. So if there's nothing new under the sun, you should be able to look inside the word and find some things to help you overcome. But we'll see some of these today. The focus today is going to be realistically wisdom. Okay, so question becomes, now it's not in a depth study of wisdom only because it requires its separate lesson, but spirit of wisdom versus regular wisdom as it's commonly understood. So there's a difference in that, and we're going to see a little bit of it today. All right. Everyone knows the rules. Understanding the whole book, part 7. So please keep your mics muted except when asking or answering a question. Use the mic to speak. There is a feature in the room where you can raise your hand. If everyone's paying attention, we might be able to see it. All questions must be on the topic. Okay. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass your 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you. All right. These rules are due to time and the recordings of the lesson. These are live teachings. We must give the Moreh enough time to complete the lesson. Okay. So mind you, because they're live recordings, I know everyone has a bunch of questions and tons of stuff. Sometimes we go way off topic. Just mind you, it's being recorded. So that means we got to go back and edit it out and things like that because sometimes it drifts from the actual lesson. All right. Understanding the book. So in 1 Samuel or Shemuel Aleph, the book goes into the transition from the rules of the judges, the Shoftim. Everyone's familiar with the judges, right? All right. And the concluding with Shemuel and his sons. These books are about kingship. We'll go over what kingship means. So if I say, how many of us in here are kings? How many of us would raise their hand? You raise your hand. Who else would raise their hand? You raise your hand. Okay, so that's why we're going to go over it. There's a difference between king and kingship, right? So kingship is a royal family, which we'll see later on. All right, anyway. So I said comparing the duties of Adam as a king and his role will be compared in these books. So the first king outside of the garden was Shaul, or come to call Saul. Note that both were removed from the position because of chata'ah, because of sin. So you notice Adam was removed. You notice Saul or Shaul was removed. Everyone's familiar with these stories, right? All right. Next king that was found was David. All right. So Acts 7, 44 through 46 is our fathers had the tabernacle of witness in the wilderness as he had appointed, speaking unto Moses that he should make it according to the fashion that he had seen, which also our fathers that came after brought in with Yahushua into the possession of the Gentiles, or Joshua, whom Elohim drove out before the face of all fathers unto the days of David, who found favor before Elohim and desired to find a tabernacle for the Elohim of Yaakov or Jacob. All right. So first king, removed. Second king, he wants to do the desires of the Father's heart. Right. No difference in same thing with Saul. First king, second king, though he made a couple of mistakes, he still redeemed himself. There's a covenant with him forever, right? Everyone sees that, right? Same thing, first Adam, second Adam. Everyone sees the pattern, right? All right, so you notice that it says, who found favor? David, right? He found favor with Elohim. All right, just as the second king found favor, so after Adam, who comes after Adam? Noah, right? Finds favor with Yahuah. So same thing as you read in Bereshit of Genesis 6:8, but Noah found favor in the sight of Yahuah. All right. With the second king or kings, if you will, though they made a mistake or they made mistakes, their offspring will continue the covenant. It's still going to keep going, right? So we want to make mistakes, and the further we get away from the land and the captivity, the further away we get from the original, if you will, then we got to start hearing things and people's translating. We're getting dictionaries and lexicons and all this stuff to try to figure out what's going on, right? But he's looking for those that are willing to endure. So in this case, Noah had got drunk, right? He made a mistake, and David made a mistake with Bathsheba. So even though David failed, he regained his kingdoms. If you want to read about that, that's 1 Kings chapter 1 and chapter 2. And then obviously his heirs will continue. Hebrews 11:7. By faith, Noah, being warned of Elohim of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. How did Noah became heir of righteousness? Everyone sees that, right? All right, we're going to see how that works later on. All right, so the point is, one becomes the heir of faith and the other accompanied with kingship, which we'll talk about in a minute. Both are necessary to be in the covenant of the future that Mashiach stated and the Tanakh. We must have faith to become heirs and kings in the future. Faith is going to be very, very, very important, right? Because if you don't have faith, I don't need you, right? Faith without works is dead. Show me your faith by your works. All right, great. All right. Isaiah 51:7 says, hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, that people in whose heart is my Torah, my law, fear you not the reproach of men, neither be you afraid of their rivalings. Psalm 119:72 says, my tongue shall speak of your word, for all your commandments are righteousness. So we see what righteous, if you look at Hebrews 11:7, he says he became the heir of righteousness because it's by faith. Now, you know, Romans 10:17 says, so then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Elohim, right? So you can read also concerning Abraham, what did he do? Abraham had faith, it's counted him for righteousness, and then he also did what? Kept the commandments, judgments, the statutes, the laws, right? Genesis 26:5, right? Better sheet 26 verse 5. All right. So 1 Kings 3:9 says, give therefore your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this your so great a people? Right? So what was he asking for? He's asking for discernment, right? So think about that first, discernment. 2 Samuel, or Shemuel Bet says, then your handmaid said, the word of Adonai, the king, shall now be comfortable, for as in a Moloch of Elohim, so is Adonai the king. And then King James has to discern. The word there for discern is, in the Hebrew, lishmoa. Okay, lishmoa, to discern good and bad. Therefore, Yahuah Elohim will be with you. All right. So lishmoa, what does that sound like? Lishmoa. Let's remove the lamed there is a prefix. Everybody should know the prefix means two or four. The prefix, the lamed. It's in you guys' regular Hebrew class. Remember, the prefix, the lamed, means two or four. It's left with Shema. So he's asking for what type of discernment? He wants to be able to hear. He wants to be able to obey. Okay? So this is what he's asking for. And he wants to know, distinguish it between good and bad, or good and evil. Okay? So it says, therefore, Yahuah Elohim will be with you. Now think about that and compare that to Bereshit or Genesis 3:6. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eye, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband her ish with her, and he did eat. What's the difference? I remember. So you see, wise, right? Did it? Hmm? Okay. So we're going to see that there's an issue with, not really an issue in the scriptures, just an understanding of what the word wise mean when it's being translated into the English, right? So we'll see what that means. Now, question would be, is this word there wise? It's not the word there, kokma or kakam. It's not the word for wisdom in that regard. So we'll see what it means later on. All right. 1 Kings 3:10 says, and these speech pleased Yahuah, that Shlomo or Solomon had asked this thing. And Elohim said unto him, because you have asked this thing and have not asked for yourself long life, neither have asked riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding, and then discernment for judgment, right? So he's asking now, he says, let's get a little bit more. I'm asking for discernment. So he's asking for, he wants to be able to hear something. He wants to be able to understand something. And then he wants to be wise in his judgment. Everyone see those three things is what Solomon is asking for. He's not asking for all the riches and the fame and all this other stuff, right? So everyone sees how you're going to get this wisdom, because everyone's asking for wisdom, but you may not know what you're asking for, right? So we're going to see how this works as we keep going. Behold, I have done according to your words. Lo, I have given you a wise and an understanding heart. So what did he give them? Wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like you before you, neither after you shall any arise like unto you. Jump down to verse 28. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom, the chokmah of Elohim was in him to do judgment. So there are things you need to get this wisdom, right? So if you have this and then someone sees it and they start seeing the Father move in your life, they might have a little something. I don't know about today, but I would say back then, if the Father's moving in someone's life and they see it, they might say, listen, I don't want to touch that prophet, do them the anointed no harm. Everyone knows this, right? So because they know that the Father's with them. So we'll keep going. So the tree in Eden seems to have functioned as a judgment tree. Adam should have judged Hanakash, or the serpent, as evil and pronounced judgment on it. Now, if you think about it, some time ago we went over, it's interesting how a lot of the judgments were done under trees. You see a bunch of judgment done under trees. So why are this judgment done under trees? Okay.
The major fault happened with a tree.
Okay. All right. What else did we learn about trees? Just curious.
Yep.
Trees represent people. What else?
The tree has good strong roots.
Causing you to get up, huh? I understand.
Trees has good roots.
Okay. So a couple of things. One is I want you to see that trees, you saw trees in the garden. We're called trees. Were any Malachims called trees? Right? We went over that when we were talking about that. So that's what I'm saying. Trees is very important when we talk about judgment and trees, and where's all this connecting? How does this connect? There's a lot to it. All right. So anyway, we'll keep going. All right. So wisdom. All right. So 1 Kings 4:30, it says, and Solomon or Shlomo, wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children, the east country, and all the wisdom of Mitzrayim, or Egypt. So his wisdom was everywhere. Everybody knew about his wisdom. Verse 34 says, and there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon or Shlomo from all kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom. All right, so we went over briefly 2 elements needed to be a part of the future covenant, faith and kingship. All right, so if you look up the word kingship, it's in its feminine form. Can anyone pronounce that? Melucha, right? Melucha, right? Kingship, royalty, a royal lineage, a kingdom, dominion, residence, reign, power, temple, all that's under kingship. Okay. The next one is wisdom. So now all we're doing is adding wisdom. Wisdom was also in the garden. Adam had a form of wisdom, which we'll talk about what that form is in just a minute. Okay, so chokmah, wisdom. 1 Kings 4:33 says, and he spoke of trees from the cedar trees that is in Lebanon, even unto the hyssop that springs out of the wall. He spoke also of beasts and of fowl and of creeping things and fishes. Now, what can you get out of that first? When you just think about this here. We know we were talking about first who they're talking about. Shlomo, Solomon, right? All right, so now we know who they're talking about. What do you get out of that?
Trees were the first thing that he spoke of. The branchings of the trees.
Okay.
Descriptive of the trees.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was just saying that it's showing that he's speaking to trees, so it's symbolic for something else.
Okay. All right. Keep that in mind. Bereshit 2:19 says, and out of the ground, Yahuah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air. And he brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. 20 talks about, and Adam gave names to all the cattle and the fowls of the air and every beast of the field. For Adam there was not found a helpmate unto him. Right? And then it talks about even fish. So is there a parallel between Solomon and Adam? That's what I want you to see. There is something that keeps going back to the garden. Something about trees, something in the garden. And then as you keep going down, talking about the fowls or the birds and the creeping things, the fish and the beast. Yeah, the herb of the earth. So you see something is going on that's keep going right back to it. Now, wait. All right, we'll keep going. So Adam was skillful in determining names to describe animals. Whatever the man called a living creature, that was its name. And the man gave names to all the cattle and to the birds in the sky and over every beast of the field. So also Shlomo or Solomon was a wise and was descriptive of the animals and the birds and the creeping things and the fish. Okay, so how are we doing so far? Everyone's tracking. All right. So chokmah and sachal. Sachal. Now, sachal is the word for wise or wisdom that's in Bereshit or Genesis that Eve or Yahuah saw. Okay, so it says, where is the first mention? I already told you where it can be found. Obviously, that was in the garden. And we'll read a little bit more of it. So it says, in Yahuah Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For in the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. And the Nakash said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. For Elohim does know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. All right, so this portion here on verse 5. So did Nakash, did he lie, tell the truth? What did he do here?
Half and half. He lied all the way, but he told a half truth.
Okay, he told the truth.
He told the truth and a lie.
Okay, he said told the truth and a lie.
In verse 5 and verse 4 and 5. Yeah, you
Okay.
not surely die. You surely die.
Okay, so it says, so the question I have then is, if he told the truth, like some people can tell the truth, right? But if the serpent knew
Omitted.
more, Nakash knew other
Omitted
things.
some things. Omitted some things.
He left a whole lot out.
Oh, Mitch, you know
Right?
how you do it.
Yeah, you know, he knows your eyes will be open. You'd be like Elohim. Yeah, but what else would you know? So that's the part that they left out, right? All right. So the word there, sakhal, means wise or wisely understand, to have insight, and to make insightful, acquiring insight, comprehend, pay attention. Right now, so now this is what she saw. I can get some insight on something. Okay, I can possibly understand something, right? But the understanding needs to be coupled with something else. You can't just have understand something and not really understand it without having some information and instructions. If I tell somebody this is water, right? And they say, oh, okay, and they drink it, and they said, well, because water's good for you. I said, well, actually, that's water, but it has a little acid in it. Well, why didn't you tell me that part? Oh, my bad. I just want to let you know that it looked like water. You ever seen battery acid? You see, it looks like water inside. You put that thing out there, depends on how old or new your battery is, determine if you can tell it or not. But the point is, there's more to something that he left out, and he allowed her to do that. All right, so Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 17 says, and I gave my heart to know wisdom, or kokma, right? So he gave his heart to know that. Then he says, and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit. So now, where's the word sakhal at? The word for sakhal is folly.
Oh, my goodness.
That is the word. The word sakhal, where it says translated as wise in the King James in chapter 3, is translated here as folly. Why is it folly? And then because it is folly, I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit. Don't know. Not all information is good. Not all understanding is good.
I think it has its own point in time when you are ready. Don't you come up there.
Okay. All right. So just keep this in mind. We'll keep going. All right. So this is, I have 3 translations up here. All right. So I have the Aramaic Peshitta Tanakh. I have the Septuagint or the LXX, and then I have the King James. Ken.
Stop it too prematurely. But you're saying that folly, that wisdom there is like a worldly folly, a worldly wisdom type of thing, or just a self-wisdom understanding type of thing?
Right. All it does is just open up your perception. It's not something that the Father gave. Remember, that tree there was there, and she got that information from somebody. So it wasn't from the Father. That information came from the Kash, or the serpent.
Okay.
So that became folly to her.
Right.
Just like in Ecclesiastes, it became folly. He says, I perceive this thing as folly and vexation of spirit. Why? Because the wisdom that you should have gotten should have been from the Father.
And it wasn't pure.
There's other parts that you have, it winds up becoming bad to you.
So you give somebody some advice, or someone gives you advice, and it then turns your world upside down. That was folly.
Yeah. They say, oh, well, hey, hey, that sister really was, or that brother really was talking about you. I'm being honest. Let me tell you what he said or what she said. Did I tell a lie? But now the way that I told it, the way that I share it might determine how your heart might feel towards that person. Right? But I still gave you some understanding. I wonder why this happened. Well, let me just tell you, they really don't like you. Let me tell you why they don't like you. So is that information good? But it is true. It does give you understanding possibly as to why this person don't like you. But I didn't give a solution. I didn't give no discernment of how to do things. In other words, there has to be something that accompanies that. And the adversary didn't give that part. Go ahead. After he said, he knows that you'll be good. Okay, she said, oh, really? And then he let her make her own decisions now. Okay, left it to her.
Slika.
Ken.
You can actually look at it too, like little children. Like, you know, Adam and Chava were pretty much children mentally. And, you know, we have to guard our children on what we expose them to, what type of wisdom we give them. Because if we give them the wrong wisdom, it'll destroy their innocence, you know, and send them down a path that they may not be ready for or can handle. So that's pretty much what's going on there.
Okay. We're going to see more because I got a question for you guys. It's going to be in the slide, but I do have a question. Yahuah, do you trust your Ima? Okay. Shrat, you trust your Isha? Okay. Aki, you trust your Isha? You trust him? Okay. You trust your daughters? Man, you got quiet fast. You trust your Ish? Isha, you trust her? How? Yeah. What makes you trust each other?
Relationship. Spending time, experiencing, getting to know them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Keep all this in mind.
I like that track record.
Yeah. Keep all that in mind because I remember all that you all said. Keep that in mind. It's recorded. All right. All right. So it's going to come back. All right. So now we have 3 translations. The first one says in Bar Enoch, or son of man, lamentations for the king of Surah, or Tari as it's translated, and say to him, thus saith Marmarot, or it's Marmarot is like saying if you look it up in a translation, like saying Lord of Lords, so to speak, right? But anyway, you are the seal of the likeness of the word of wisdom, a crown of praise. Septuagint says, son of man, take up lamentations for the prince of Tari, and say to him, thus saith Adonai Yahuah, you are a seal of resemblance and a crown of beauty. All right, King James says, son of man, take up lamentations upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, thus saith Adonai Yahuah, you seal up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Okay, so we got words of wisdom. Then we have one that says crown of beauty, full of wisdom. And then you have Septuagint that said, hey, they ain't say anything about that, right? Keep that in mind. Go to the next verse. The Aramaic Peshetta says, you have been in Eden, or Eden, the Pardisa, or the paradise of Allah, and all the precious stones you have worn, red and white and sardius and chalcedony and emeralds and beryl and sapphire and jasper and crystal and pearls. He's saying you have filled up the house of your treasures with gold and precious stones in the house of your storage from the day that you were created. Keep that in mind. Now we're going to go to Septuagint. You was in the delight of the paradise of Elohim. You have bound upon you every precious stone, the sardius, the topaz, the emeralds, the carbuncle, the sapphire, the jasper, the silver, the gold, the agate, the agate, the amethyst, the chrysolite, the beryl, the onyx, and you have filled your treasure and your stores in you with gold. Then King James says, you have been in Eden, or Eden, the garden of Elohim. Every precious stone was your covering. And the sardius, and the topaz, and the diamond, and the beryl, and the onyx, and the jasper, and the sapphire, the emerald, carbuncle, gold, the workmanship of your tabaret, and of your pipes was prepared in you in the day that you was created. Now, when we get into that book, we're going to go over a lot of these things, what it means. I'm just leading up to something. My focus is, again, still going to be on wisdom, but you're going to see there's some different translations happening here, and we're going to see what's the reason for it when we finally get to Ezekiel next year. Okay. All right. All right. Verse 14. It says, and you have been with the Karuba, right? This is the Aramaic. So you're with the Karuba, or the cherub, if you will, who is anointed and who shelters, and I have settled you in the mountain of the Kadosh of Eluah. And you have been among the stones of fire. All right. So here, the Aramaic Peshetta says he was with, and they're specifically talking about Adam, saying that he was with the anointed cherub, if you will. All right. Septuagint agrees with the Aramaic Peshetta. From the day that which you was created, you was with the Karub, or the cherub. I set you on the set apart mountain, the Kadosh mountain of Elohim. You was in the midst of the stones of fire. Then you have Ezekiel 20:14, King James. You are, you the anointed cherub that covers, and I have set you. You was upon the Kadosh mountain of Elohim. You have walked upon and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Okay, so you see there's a difference. It goes from one to possibly the other. Everyone understands? It goes from Adam being maybe with the cherub versus in the King James, basically it's talking about the cherub or the cherub. Okay. All right. 15 says, and you walked without defect in your ways from the day that you were created, even until evil was found in you. Septuagint. You was faultless in your days from the days that you was created until iniquity was found in you. King James, you was perfect in your ways from the day that you was created till iniquity was found in you. Okay, everyone's good with this? No questions. All right, great. 16. In the multitude of your commerce, you have been filled with evil within you, and you have sinned, and you have killed yourself from the mountain of Elohim, or Allah. And I shall destroy you, Karubah, who sheltered from within the stones of fire. Ezekiel 28:16 on the Septuagint says, of the abundance of your merchandise, you have filled your storehouses with iniquity and have sinned. Therefore, you have been cast down, wounded from the mountain of Elohim, where Eden was. That's what I want you, that's me implying that portion in there. And the Keruv has brought you out of the midst of these stones of fire. And then 28:16 says, by the multitude of your merchandise, they have filled the midst of you with violence, and you have sinned. Therefore, I will cast you as profane out of the mountain of Elohim, and I will destroy you, O covering Keruv, or cherub, if you will, from the midst of the stones of fire. All right, so Eden was the place where wisdom was first, but this wisdom became corrupted in that being. Why? Now, when you read this, you said, man, this is Adam, and he did sin and iniquity, and all we heard was just he ate from a tree, and that was it. And he kicked him out because of that. But you got other writers says, no, he did a lot more if you go over this side. Right? So the question becomes for you guys, what else do you believe Adam did? Other than just the fruit. What else did he do?
After he took the fruit,
Disobedience.
Okay, so disobedience, okay. But what else did he do? I mean, he didn't listen. We got that part. But what else did he do that caused him to be kicked out?
Maybe
He didn't defend the garden. He was supposed, to protect the garden, and he didn't protect it the way he should have been a king, like a kingship over the garden, and he didn't do that. He didn't protect it properly against Shaitan.
Okay.
Maybe his thoughts.
His thoughts? Okay.
He took his Isha's advice. He listened to her.
Listen to her.
Instead of the father's command that he had given her.
Okay. Anyone else?
He didn't act as a priest.
Okay. He didn't act as a priest.
I'm thinking that because of the fact that it talks about that they took from the tree of knowledge, that he more or less became probably puffed up at that point, thinking that he knew something.
Okay. Anyone else?
It has to do something, I would assume, His eyes came open. Then he thought enough to take some fig leaves, and that's symbolic of something else, and cover himself with it. So it has to do something. Then, enough of that, he knew that Most High was coming. Then he took to hide himself. So it has to be within those concepts there that there was more that he had did after he ate.
Okay.
It wasn't just he just ate. It was more after that.
Okay. So I'm gonna sum it up really fast, and then when we get to this chapter, we'll go into it more. But I want to share with you, so in case you want to start now in your studies, he did idolatry.
Okay.
Now the question becomes, how do you do idolatry?
Of his Isha?
Huh?
Of his Isha?
Idolatry first, the serpent.
Ken.
So you have to put that idolatry together with the serpent, and then remember the Isha was beguiled, but there's a transition from one mighty one to another that I want to take a look at later on. Okay. All right. So meanwhile, we'll just stick with what we know. 28:12 that we already read. So I want us to focus on wisdom again, right? So it says, Son of man, take upon lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith Adonai Yahuah, you sealed up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. 1 Kings 7:14. He was the son of a widow of the tribe of Naphtali, Naphtali. And his father was a man of Tyrus, a worker in bronze, and he was full of wisdom, understanding, and skill for making any work in bronze. He came to King Shlomo and did all his work. All right. So, which we'll see is later on is with wisdom, it has to be accompanied with understanding and skill. You know, you have to have wisdom by itself. Just to have the wisdom of something, or even to have the knowledge of something, if you can't use it correctly, it can hurt you, it can harm you, right? So remember when Solomon asked him about, hey, give me this discernment, and he wanted wisdom so he can understand both good and bad. But when they didn't have that good and bad, so to speak, in wisdom, the way that they have, they cause a problem. Now, did he know good and bad? Meaning, does he know that he should obey Elohim? Yes, we'll read that in just a minute. All right. So Hiram or Hiram was employed by Shlomo to help build the temple. Hiram was filled with wisdom. The closest parallels in the conjunction with building the tabernacle, the same can be seen for the building of the temple, right? So you remember when we always talked about the temple in 28:3 and 31:3, it says, and you shall speak unto all the wise-hearted whom I, who's I? Yahuah, right? Whom I, Yahuah, have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aharon's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest office. 31:3 says, and I have filled him with the spirit of Elohim in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of workmanship. So you notice what's happening. When the Father gives you something, he's giving you everything you need to be successful. Whereas you saw the Nakash gave you one thing, but didn't give you the rest to make you be successful for a reason. Okay? All right. So having the wisdom alone is not enough. You need the other abilities, spirit, if you will, to be righteous in the wisdom. So what I'm getting at is there such thing called the spirit of understanding? Is there? Okay. Is there any other spirits that you're familiar with that you can probably think about in, what's it, Yeshayahu 11, 1 and 2? So there's, right. Spirit of might, the spirit of, okay. So let's keep going. Spirit of wisdom to be filled within us. Okay, so this gives us the understanding also that the one who possesses wisdom can apply it for good or for evil. So I'm going to give you an example of something bad. Okay, and Amnon had a friend whose name was Yehonadab, the son of Shem'ah, Do's brother. And Yehonadab was a very subtle man, right? So the word there is, now this word subtle is different from the one in the garden, okay? A room is what you will see in Genesis 3:1. This one here says ish chacham meod, right? So this word subtle here is what? Word for chacham, word for wisdom. Okay, so the word for man you see is ish, subtle you see right here, chacham, and then very is meod, like tov meod, very good. Everyone's familiar with that word, right? Great. All right, man, you guys' Hebrew is getting better and better. I just, wow. Okay. All right, so understand here, before you go, we change all this out to be Hebrew. All right. So understand that what he was very subtle. He's a very wise man, right? So now he's very wise. And he said unto him, why are you, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Will you not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother. Then he says, who? Avshalom, sister. Okay, Avshalom, sister. All right, verse 5. He says, and Yehonadab said unto him, lay you down on your bed and make yourself sick. And when your father comes to see you, say unto him, I pray you, let my sister Tamar come and give me meat or food, and dress the food or the meat in my sight, that I may see it and eat it from at her hand. Now, you see, he wants to use it in a different way. Now, for some of you guys, I got to ask you a question. Yes, Ron, let me ask you a question. Can you see eating from your Isha's hand?
No.
Okay. Okay, listen. I don't want no problems. No, when you guys get in the car, y'all need to love each other. Glad we got that understanding. Question: could you see yourself eating from your Isha's hands? I don't know. I'm just asking. Can you see yourself eating from your Isha's hands?
No.
Okay. All right. Malak Yosef, question for you. In the future,
And, you know where I'm going.
when that boo comes around, whoever that boo is, whenever she comes around, can you see yourself eating from her hands?
Depends if I ain't have no hands to eat with.
So if your arms is chopped off, I've seen people use their feet. Now I'm just saying. Okay. All right. I can ask you a question. We ain't gonna have no problems, right? Okay. Could you see yourself eating from your Isha's hands?
Depends on the circumstance.
So it depends on the circumstance. What will make you? What will allow you to eat from her hands?
Being sick or gravely ill.
Okay.
Like that.
All right. So the difference between this story and you guys' story is what? Here, he's setting this thing up.
Yeah.
He's setting it up in a bad way.
Oh yeah, he planned it.
Right? I want to do this, I want to do this, and then you do it this way, and then I want to see something. He says, Sister, come and give me the meat and dress the meat in my sight. So he wants to see her in a certain way. Mind you, is this his Isha?
It's his sister.
Okay. So is something wrong with you guys eating from Isha's hand? Does she wash her hands?
Look,
Huh?
it's dangerous sometimes. You know, just
Now-
shoving stuff in your mouth. Yeah, you know. Now, if you're deadly, gravely sick and you can't lift you sick, you're
Mhm.
really sick,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't feed yourself, then yeah, she might feed you some soup or some broth to try to help you get better. But just to be letting her feed me,
Uh-huh.
no.
Okay. So now that I asked the brothers, sisters, that the men that I asked, the women question, would you do that?
Why do I have to be first?
Uh-huh.
Ken.
We would do that. Okay. Sisters online says Ken. Okay. Anyone else?
Depends on circumstance. I mean, just,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, of course.
I don't like you right now. No. No. Okay. Anyone else? What would you say?
I came in at the last.
Oh, okay. It's okay. It's okay. He'll talk to you on your way back home.
Slicha,
Huh?
this is
You
this.
have. Okay. All right. So the reason I'm saying is because the difference here is one is doing things in a wicked way. One is in a righteous way. If the sisters is doing it in a righteous manner, you'll be good. Now, I'm asking you guys, I'm leading up to this trust. Remember, I asked you guys all about trust. Everyone's like, yeah, I trust, right?
Okay, Moreh.
Ken.
I know I came at the last minute,
Uh-huh.
but
He said no. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, finish.
like nuts, raisins, stuff like that.
He ain't gonna eat no nuts.
Word.
He ain't gonna eat no raisins. He said he ain't gonna eat no fruit. He ain't gonna eat no bread. He ain't gonna eat none of that.
Oh, okay.
No, he didn't say it like that.
Okay.
All right. So, but what we're doing is, I'm just saying that when we look at these scriptures, we have to start looking into the word and see what's happening. This is your wisdom into his word. When you start doing this and learning, seeing what they're doing, is it what they're doing right or wrong? If it's wrong, you say, oh, I would never do that because this is what I got out as to why it's wrong. If it's right, it should be no problem, right? Okay, we'll keep going. All right, so 2nd Enoch. I'll read a little bit of this. So it says, 30 verse 11 says, and on the earth I assign him to be a second Malach, honored and great and esteemed. Adam. He made Adam or Adam to be a second Malach or a messenger, being translated as an angel, if you will, right? From an Anglo-Saxon term. Anyway, so he says, now, mind you, it says in that, I would like to be curious as to see that in the Hebrew. So I ordered a copy just to verify certain things. Anyway, aside from that, look at Psalms 8:4-6. He says, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you visit him? He says, for he have made them, or him, it's in the plural in the Hebrew. He made him a what? A ma'at, a little lower than the, now King James has a little lower than the what? Malachim, right? A little lower than angels, as it says in the King James, right? But the Hebrew doesn't say that. It says a little lower than what? Elohim. He made him made man a little lower than Elohim, right? So technically, you see the mem, that means from, right? But if we're going to translate it to English also, it can mean than heavenly beings. I made him a little lower than heavenly beings, and have crowned him with the esteem and honor. You made him to have dominion over the works of all your hands. You have put all things under his feet. Do you want to see what's happening here? It can agree with the text. Same thing if we can go over to Ezekiel. So when we get to Psalm, we get to Enoch, there is some comparison that we have to do in the text, in the Hebrew and in the English, and see the translation. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Verse 12. It says, and I assign him to be a king, to reign on the earth, and to have my wisdom. And there was nothing comparable to him on the earth, even among my creators or creatures that exist. So in Ezekiel 20, there was someone that was created, nothing like him on the earth. Okay. 15 says, and I gave him his free will, and I pointed out to him the two ways, light and darkness. And I said to him, this is good for you, but that is bad, so that I might come to know whether he is love towards me or abhorrence, and so that it might become plain who among his race loves me. Okay? So a little different, right? But again, let's see what happened. When I say a little different, meaning it doesn't disagree at all. But he did know, he told him, you can eat from this, but you shall not eat from that. In other words, he's given him some good and bad. He's gotten this, but he was testing him to see if he really loved the Most High. No different. Meshach says, you love me if you, I just want to see if you'll do it. Right? All right, we'll keep going. This one here is Folly. He writes as follows. And with great beauty, Moses has attributed the giving of names to different animals to the first created man, for it is a work of wisdom and indicative of royal authority. A man was full of intuitive wisdom and self-taught, having been created by the favor of Yahuah, and moreover was a king. And it is proper for a ruler to give names to each of his subjects. And as was very natural, the power of domination was excessive in the first created man, whom Yahuah formed with great care and thought worthy of the second rank in the creation. Second rank in the creation. Make him his own viceroy and the ruler of all other creatures, since even those who have been born so many generations afterwards, when the race is becoming weakened by reason of the long intervals of time that have elapsed since the beginning of the world, do still exert the same power over the irrational beasts, preserving as it were a spark of the dominion and power which has been handed down to them by succession from their first ancestor. As time goes, it starts to diminish. It starts to slowly go a certain way. You know, the way that we may kill meat, eat meat, or whatever we do now, you wouldn't have found that back then. Meaning the culture here is we can supersize everything. The bigger it is, the better. More meat, less vegetables. Supersize, I want the triple dipper, Whopper, Big Mac. You guys go there. Huh? Mm-hmm.
I ain't been there in a minute.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been 10 weeks. Almost 10 weeks. I got it. But the minute come out, remember when Hardee's came out with the first organic burger? Y'all don't remember that? Oh, okay. You remember that came out? Man, oh, absolutely. I was there. Tailpipe and all. But my point is that, over time, we start eating more meat and less vegetables, less stuff that's healthy for you. And then our lifespan starts to go down, right? But back then, meat was not like that. Even if they ate meat every day, hypothetically, even if they ate meat, it wouldn't be no big piece, right? So, but we'll see when Shavuot, Feast of Weeks come. We'll see what happens. All right. It's going to be a rough day. All right, so now the book of wisdom. This book is in the Apocrypha. Everyone's familiar with this book, right? Wisdom of Solomon is in the Apocrypha, just a little history. It is generally dated to the mid-1st century BCE, around 50 BCE, although some scholars place it anywhere around the 2nd century BCE to the 1st century CE. The book of wisdom is one of the books of the Apocrypha in the Septuagint and Vulgate, okay? So it's old. It's older than the Masoretic text that we have. But anyway, let's read what it says. Wisdom. And everyone knows it's given Solomon or Shlomo credit for writing the book of wisdom. Is everyone with me so far? Okay. All right. This is wherefore I prayed, and understanding was given me. I called upon Elohim, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her before scepters and thrones and esteemed riches, nothing in comparison of her. Now, before I keep going for you, you're going to hear wisdom as being a her, right? Question, do you believe the Ruach or wisdom is a female? Okay, because you hear wisdom, her, but you also hear wisdom, he, right? All right, so anyway. Neither compare I unto her any precious stones, because all gold in respect of her is as little sand, and silver shall be counted as clay before her. For she is the breath of the power of Elohim, and a pure influence flowing from the esteem of the Almighty. Therefore can no defiled thing fall into her. For she is the brightness of the everlasting light, the unspotted mirror of the power of Elohim, and the image of his goodness, and ordained man through your wisdom that he should have dominion over the creatures which you have made. So now Solomon's about to go into where wisdom was at back in the day. So pay attention where wisdom was. Okay, so it says, and now order the world according to the equity and righteousness, and execute judgment with an upright heart. Give me wisdom that sits by your throne, and reject me not from among your children. Just before we get started, in 10, Sirach 24:28 says, the first man knew her not perfectly, no more shall the last find her out. Now, they're talking about Adam did not know wisdom perfectly, right? He knew wisdom, but did not know wisdom perfectly. Keep that in mind. All right, so 10:1. She preserved the first formed father of the world that was created alone and brought him out of his fall. He gave him power to rule over, or to rule all things, for whose cause the earth being drowned with the flood, wisdom again preserved it and directed the course of the righteous in a piece of wood of small value. Who are they talking about here so far? So you saw Adam, you see Noah, everyone's tracking. Okay, great. Verse 6, he says, when the wicked perished, she delivered the righteous man who fled from the fire which fell down upon the 5 cities. Who's that? Lot. All right. 10:10. He says, when the righteous fled from his brother's wrath, she guided him in right paths, showed him the kingdom of Elohim, and gave him knowledge of the Kodesh thing, or set apart things, made him rich in his travels, and multiplied the fruit of his labor. Who's that? Yahuah or Jacob. Okay. And the covetousness of such oppressed him, she stood by him and made him rich. She defended him from his enemies and kept him safe from those that lay in wait. And in a sore conflict, she gave him the victory, that might know that goodness is stronger than all. When the righteous was sold, she forsook him not, but delivered him from sin. She went down with him into the pit. Who's that? Joseph. You didn't know Joseph went to the pit? Oh, okay. All right. I understand. And left him not in bonds till she brought him the scepter of the kingdom and power against those that oppressed him. As for them that had accused him, she showed them to be liars and gave him perpetual esteem. She delivered the righteous people and blameless seed from the nation that oppressed them. What's that? Y'all know that. Oh my. Okay. She entered into the souls of the servant of Yahuah. Who is that? Moses. And withstood dreadful kings in wonders and signs, rendered to the righteous a reward of their labors, guided them in a marvelous way, and was unto them for a cover by day and a light of stars in the night season. Brought them through the Red Sea, or Yom Suf, and led them through much water. Okay, how are we doing so far? All right. For he was given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements, the beginning, ending, and midst of the times, the alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons, the circuit of years and the positions of stars, the natures of living creatures and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of wind and the reasoning of men, the diversities of plant and their virtuous roots, and all such things as are either secret or manifest, them I know. For wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me, For in her is the understanding spirit, or the understanding Kodesh spirit, set apart spirit, one only manifold, subtle, or wisdom, lively, clear, undefiled, plain, no, not subject to hurt, loving things that is good, quick, which cannot be let, ready to do good. All right. So when we get to wisdom, in the canon, then we'll talk more about what this is about. But you can see it shows wisdom is everywhere if you view this correctly. Right. Right. So
it shows a nurturing part of wisdom.
Right. So you see wisdom here is someone that's on your side. Wisdom, you're going to see the spirit that seals. You're going to see the spirit that helps and guides. So it's in its feminine form, or its nechava. This is the word for feminine, nechava form. There are some places where the spirit is in a zakar, or a masculine form. All right. All right. So remember, 1 Kings 4:33 says, and he spoke of the trees and the cedars and that the Lebanon. Remember that. So you can see he had the wisdom with him the whole time. He said it entered into him and he started knowing so much. But he needed not just the wisdom, he needed the understanding, he needed the skill, he needed a lot of things to make this happen, of judgment. Okay. All right. 1 Kings 6:11 through 13. We'll jump down to 28, 29, then 32 through 35, and then back to Genesis there. So it says, and the word of Yahuah came unto Shlomo Solomon, saying, concerning this house which you are in building, if you will walk in my statutes and execute my judgment and keep all my commandments to walk in them, then will I perform my word with you, which I spoke unto David, or David your father. And I will dwell among the children of Israel, or Yisrael, or Israel, and will not forsake my people, Israel. And he overlaid the cherubim with gold, or the cherubims, if you will. He says, and he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of the cherubims, or cherubim, and palm trees and open flowers within and without. And so we'll keep reading, but I want you to see that what's happening here is you're going to see the Garden of Eden. You're going to see the protection of the cherubs, the anointed cherubs or cherubims. You see all that stuff here. It says, so the two doors also were of olive tree. And okay, then I'll leave it alone. And he carved upon them the carvings of the cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold. All right, 33 says, so also made he the door of the temple post of olive tree, a fourth part of the wall. And the two doors were of fir tree. The two leaves of the one door were folding, and the two leaves of the other door were folding. Okay, so it's like a gate, if you will. And he carved thereon cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and covered them with gold fitting upon the carved work. So I put, with the wisdom that was given to Shlomo, he was able to build the house or temple, which also resembles what was in the garden. The east gate, or the Gan, had the cherubim. So you'll see a picture of later on when we go more into the temple. We're going to see that temple he made was a picture of the garden. Even the cherub that were in front of the gates was operating as a gatekeeper, if you will. You can see all of that is going to come together later on. Of course, Genesis 24, you already know about. So he drove out the man, and he had placed in the east of the Gan of Eden, or Garden of Eden, the cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. All right, from the garden to Shlomo. So I color coded this to kind of help out. So we know that in Genesis 1:26 and 28, Elohim said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over the creeping things that creeps upon the earth. So 28 says, and Elohim blessed them. So we see having dominion, we see him blessing. And then Elohim said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, or fill the earth, if you will, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. So all that's in green is showing you, for an example, this is what he told Adam. Then you go to Bereshit 9:1. He tells Noah, be fruitful and multiply. Then you go over to 17:6, and he tells Abraham, be fruitful and multiply. Then you go to Jacob and Jacob. He tells them 41:52, be fruitful and multiply. Then you see 41:52, Ephraim, be fruitful and multiply. Then you go to 49:22, till Joseph, be fruitful and multiply. Then Shemot and in Wa'ikra Leviticus tells Israel to be fruitful and multiply. You see, it's going from the garden. It just keeps on going throughout the generations to the promised seed. Okay, is everyone good with that? All right. 1 Kings 4:20 says, Yehudah and Israel were many as the sand which is by the sea, and multitudes eating and drinking and making merry. Of course, we know that in Genesis 22:17, he says that in blessing I will bless you, which you'll see one father says, but then it says, and multiply your seed as the stars of heaven and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gates of his enemy. 1 Kings 2:45 says, and the king Shlomo shall be blessed, and the throne of David shall be established before Yahuah forever. 1 Kings 4:21, and Shlomo reigned over all kingdoms from the river until the land of Philistines, and unto the borders of Mitzrayim. They brought presents and served Shlomo all the days of his life. 24, for he had dominion over all the regions of this side of the river, from where? Tifsah, even to Azah, over all the kingdoms of this side the river, and had peace on all sides around about him. So King Shlomo, exceeding with all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom, and all the earth sought to Shlomo to hear his wisdom, which Elohim put in his heart. All right, so you're going to see this pattern throughout. As we keep going through, it's going to get more, but it's going to intensify every time we start going into the different kingdoms and things like that we'll see in the future. All right, who do you trust? Keep that in mind. Now, we're going to read some things, and then after that, we're going to see how we operate with one another. All right, so safety is to be in your king. Everyone agrees. All right, so when Shlomo was king, both Yehudah and Israel dwelt in safety. 1 Kings 4:25 says, and Yehudah and Israel dwelt safely. Then it says, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan or Dan, even to Beersheba, all days of Shlomo. 28 says, and who's this? Shacheh Vayachra. All right, stood and cried with a loud voice in the Yehudit, that is what they call the Jewish language in the English there, and spoke, saying, hear the word of the great king, the king of Ashur, Assyria. Now, this is the king of Assyria saying this. All right, so first we read earlier that they were all safe with Shlomo, the king, right? And every man was under his vine and under his fig tree. Everyone was good. Later on, here comes 2 Kings, here comes the king of Assyria, and he says, thus saith the king, let not, and this is Hezekiah, but it's Hezekiah, deceive you. Now all of a sudden he's deceiving. The king of Assyria is telling Israel, don't let their king deceive you, okay? For he shall not be able to deliver you out of his hand. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in Yahuah.
What?
Okay? What? Saying, Yahuah will surely deliver us, and this city shall not be delivered into the hands of the king of Ashur or Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Ashur, Assyria, make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me and listen, and then eat you every man of his own vine and every one of his own fig tree. Everyone sees this up top, right? He's trying to do this here. It says, and drink you every one the waters of his cisterns. Okay, verse 32 says, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land. A land of corn and wine, and a land of bread and vineyards, a land of oil, olives, and of honey, that you may live and not die, And hearken not unto Yahuah when he persuades you, saying, Yahuah will deliver us. Okay, so now we got a king that's let you know, listen, look what all that I did. Look what I can do for you. I wonder, is this going to happen again, or is it happening now? Hey, come on over, to the new world. Everyone's heard of the new world? Who hasn't heard of the new world? They call the United States the new world. Yeah, they told the slaves, we're taking you to the new world. And in that new world, you're going to have all this good stuff. Next you know, they got lumps on their back. Okay, but anyway, another lesson. So Micah 4:1 says, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahuah shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills. People shall flow in unto it. And many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahuah and to the house of the Elohim of Yaakov and Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth out of Zion, and the words of Yahuah from Yushalayim or Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Verse 4, but they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of Yahuah of hosts has spoken it. Zechariah 3:8-10 says, hear now, O Yahushua, the high priest, or Joshua the priest, you and your fellows that sit before you, for they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant, the samach, or the branch. For behold, the stone that I have laid before Yahushua, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave the graving thereof, saith Yahuah of hosts, and I will remove the iniquities of that land in one day. In that day, saith Yahuah of hosts, shall you call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. Right? So what's going on about these? Right? So when we get there, we'll talk about it. Keep going. Okay, what is trust? Now, when you look at these pictures, there's some people that just trust, right? Then you got one that says, listen, you don't know what I've been through, the darkness I've been through. That's one that's in here. It says, maybe when you understand the intensity of my worship, that's when you can understand the worship. That's this person. Other one here, I don't trust these women. I don't trust them, period, right? Anyway, you got a sister here, Psalms 9:10, those who know your name will trust in you, for Yahuah has never forsaken those who seek you. Of course, lean on Yahuah. Then you got those that lean on to spirits or the fallen ones, right? So everyone sees this, right? All right, trust. Before I do trust, everyone agrees they trust their spouse and everything, right? And their friends, their brothers, their mother. You trust your Ima, right? Ima, you trust yourself? Oh man, it's rough. Well, okay. So I want us to understand what trust is, because we're using this term trust loosely. Okay, because sometimes I trust you as far as I can throw you, or it could be a different type of trust. All right, so let's look at trust. These are the three main Hebrew words for trust. First one is chasa, to seek refuge, to flee for protection, and thus figuratively put trust in Elohim, confide and hope is in Elohim. This is one type of trust. Okay. Now, just so we're clear, all three of these are what you to have in Yahuah. Now, the second one, it's something that you all should have with one another. To confirm, support, uphold, to be established, to be faithful, to be certain, i.e. to believe. That's the trust that you should have in each other. Okay, Aman. Mm-hmm. Which one? Aman. Yeah, Aman. First one is chesed. The second one is aman, like amen, aman. All right. The last one is batach. I trust in, I feel safe, be confident or careless. This type of trust, I can do that with Yahuah with no problem. I could be lackadaisical with it because I just believe. But with others, you got to be careful because you can be careless if you want to, right? Your feelings, I feel safe with this person. Find out you done cut you all up or she done cut you up, right? I just trust in that person. That's what it is. So these are the three different types of trust. And so you got to understand that, listen, this is where I am with one person. I can only be all three with the Most High, but I definitely can work on it with each other, the one in the center. And I definitely will have my guard up with the third one. But that first one, I only give that to Yahuah. Okay, is everyone with me so far? Yeah. All right, any questions? All right, almost done. So the book of Job, and then after that, I'll close out with the final slide, and that's it. Now, book of Job is going to, when we get to the book of Job, I want to share with you that it's going to parallel, Ezekiel. Job will. But I want us to look at something really fast. So I put this chart together. Is it too much? Okay. I put this chart together, and this chart works going down and sideways, right? So just reading it straight down stops here. This is my notes at the bottom. So you read straight down, straight down, straight down, then we'll read it across. So first is Job, Iob 4:17 through 19. And it says, shall mortal man be more tzedak or righteous than Eloah or Elohim? Shall a man be more tihar or pure than his maker? Behold, he puts lo ya'amin. He puts no trust in his servants. And his malakim he charged, or he puts with tahulah. He puts them with error. He says, 19 says, off, or how much less in them that dwell in the house of clay. What do you mean dwell in the house of clay? This vessel is full of clay, right? Or made from clay. 19b says, whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moths, right? So that's that side. Let's look at the middle. He says, what is man that he should be yizke, or clean, okay? Yizke, clean. It says, and he which is born of a woman, that he should be yitzdach, or righteous. Behold, he puts lo yami, no trust. And then it says, in who? Big doshav, or is it called? Big doshav in classical Hebrew. In his set apart ones, he was no trust in them. Yea, the heavens, lo yakol be'anim, are not clean in his sight or in his eyes. Afki, how much more abominable and filthy a man which drinks iniquity like water. And the last one, how then can man be yitzdach, or righteous, with El? Or how can he be yizke, or clean, that is born of a woman? Behold, even to the moon, velo yahil, right? Ahil, that is shines not. Yea, the stars. What about the stars? Lo yakul be'anav, are not pure in his sight. Afki, how much less man that is worm. And lastly, it says, and the son of man, which is a worm. All right, so what's going on with Job here? What's happening here? Job and Alpaz, technically, what's happening? What's happened that you can get out of this? Any patterns you see?
Yeah, you keep asking about who can be clean, how you can be clean. No trust in the servants. Trust in the servants. Oh, sorry. Who can be clean? No trust in the servants. What can a man be made pure like his maker? Yeah.
Okay, so we read it down and going across. Do y'all see words keep repeating itself over and over again, right? So who can be like this? Anyone know? So in other words, the only way that he can actually help us is if we do what is righteous, what is pleasing, what is pure, what is something has to tell you what is pure, something has to tell you what's clean. You have to be filled with something. In other words, all of these things is the only thing. So the trust technically is not in man, but what's in the man. No difference than while I was asking you guys, do you guys trust one another? The man can say, technically, I don't trust my Isha, period. What I do trust is the spirit of the Father that's in her, if she's operating like the scriptures tell her to operate. No difference in a woman. A woman says, I don't trust man as far as I can see him. Great. But if he's operating in the Father's word, that's who you're trusting in, is what's written, and he's walking out what's written in his word. Then you should be able to trust him. Is everyone with me so far? Okay. We'll keep going, but we'll get to Job sometime in the future. Okay, so what do we need to find favor in Yahuah? Say, in order to be ready for kingship, 4 things should be considered. And these are things you guys are going to put on your own. Number 1, faith. How do you get faith? Okay. And there's other things for faith, but just understand, you guys put those things together. Number 2, kingship. How does kingship work? How does a kingdom work? How does royalty work? Okay. Number 3, you got to have wisdom. Okay. But with wisdom, there's some things that you need to learn and ask the Father for. You say, Father, I want wisdom, but with the wisdom that you give me, I want understanding. I want this, I want that. Discernment. I want to hear the understanding the good and the bad of something. Just understanding the good of something and never knowing the bad. When that bad comes, you're lost. You got to understand it all. Number 4, righteousness. What is righteousness? Right? His word is righteousness, right? We read it earlier. That has to be the case. All right. Any question pertaining to the lesson? No? Okay. I just want a little bit more oxygen in my water. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
This is probably a little bit too far off, but I noticed that when you got to the 2 doors, you started to say something and you kind of paused, but I have a question regarding that. Would those 2 doors kind of represent first and second Adam? No? Okay.
But when we will get to it, I'll go more into the gates. Does anyone know anything about gates by chance? Anything called gates? And anyway, we'll skip all that.
The pattern that the sun travels through goes through gates.
Yep.
Gates of Shayim, the gates of when the Most High opens up the gates for rain, snow, different times of the year, seasons.
Okay.
Y'all got 3 weeks of gates.
I thought you.
Huh? 3 weeks on
Talk
gates.
about them
Y'all should
eyes,
know.
ears.
No.
It's gonna be another 3 weeks of y'all keep them.
We were talking about the gates.
It was good.
Of
It was good on that day. It was good on that day. After that day we left, it's like going to church on Sunday.
Ken, you just put it to the side. Forgot about that. We need some more.
All right. No. All right. Any other questions?
the gates of the eyes and the mouth and the ears.
Oh, you late now.
Is that what? No, I know that, but I was so focused on this lesson until I wasn't really thinking about the other gates, but I know them.
Well, you got to understand all the lessons that come out, they're all tying together. I mean, if you're following the lessons, all this here, just like Moreh Lamadyahu was sharing about when we were doing the Omer, and we're trying to get to a place. If you're trying to be married and be in a kingdom, if you really want that, your heart is going to show something. But not only that, I know some of us think that this is how it works. I can please the Father all I want, and I could do what he wants me to do, and I treat each other like garbage. I'm trying to figure out how you think you're going to make it in the kingdom. Right? The same way you should have that understanding that the way I'm treating the Father, the love and the faith that I should have that in my brother and my sister. The problem, though, is you may give it all, but that other brother or sister may not give it, and then it causes a problem, right? I think that's kind of what everyone keep bumping heads, around the world. I'm not saying here. I'm saying around the world, people bump heads because they want to be genuine, but sometimes people don't know how to do that, or, oh, it's ready. And but anyway, we'll get to that at that time.
Because I was going to ask you, Moreh, how do we get to that point if one person is doing everything or doing what they need to be doing for the mishpachah or for their friends, and the other person isn't doing it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, first you need to go to that person, but a lot of times before they even go to that person, they'd already went to 3 or 4 other people. But my point is, there's a way that you should do things. Michelle, we told you, one-on-one, go to that person one-on-one. If that didn't work, then you take 2 or 3 with you. That didn't work, get a counsel. If that don't work, turn in front of everybody. In other words, there's ways to make things happen, but some of us don't want to do these things. So yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Well, that'll conclude the lesson, and we're going to switch over at 6:30 for the Hebrew class. All right. We'll stand and close. Who's there? Oh, okay.
Baruch your name, Abba Yahuah. Todah for who you are. Todah for the protection that you have been giving us. Things that go overlooked that we might not even understand. Father, there's a lot going on outside these walls throughout this world, and our people are being victimized to the left and to the right, Father. And many hearts are failing. People are emotional. People are confused, Father. But according to your word, you said you're showing mercy to thousands of them who love you and keep your commandments. That is our protection. We seek you daily, in the morning when we wake, in the evening, and before we rest at night, Father. And we repeat the process the very next day. I thank you for everything that you're doing, Father. I thank you right now for healing our brother Sirach Will, Father. Hallelujah. That you touch his heart, touch his chest, and you continue to keep your Malachim around, protecting him. There's danger, there's Hashatan all around us, Father, but you are Tov and mightier than all. And I ask that you bring your wisdom into our temples, Father, that we may walk out your righteous ways and be a light among the nations. We exalt your name, we lift it high. In Yahusha's name, Amen.